Liam Carter was 42 years old, a quietly determined software engineer who had spent the last decade building a small but successful tech company from his garage in Austin, Texas. Every morning, he followed a precise routine, brewing his French press coffee while the sunlight filtered through the kitchen's tall windows, checking emails on his MacBook, and organizing his day with meticulous care. He enjoyed the calm rhythm of his life, weekdays spent coding, mentoring junior developers, and evenings with his golden retriever, Max, in the modest backyard of his suburban home. He liked the subtle luxury of his life, a marble countertop that gleamed under soft pendant lights, the faint scent of fresh coffee mixed with his favorite cedarwood candle, and the quiet hum of his server rack in the corner. Then came that Thursday afternoon. Liam returned from a client meeting to find an envelope on the kitchen counter that made his heart skip. It wasn't just any envelope, it was thick, cream-colored, and perfectly weighted. The handwriting on the front was unmistakable. Olivia Bennett, his wife of 14 years, had left a note. He opened it slowly, and the words stabbed sharper than he anticipated: "I've filed for divorce. All assets are in my name now. Pack your things." Something felt wrong. The marble countertop seemed colder, the afternoon light harsher. Liam's hands tightened around the envelope as he scanned the note again, every word sinking in, the betrayal raw and immediate. He had no idea what was coming. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. Then he saw it, the small print detailing every account, every property, every financial move she had quietly executed over the past months, the quiet accumulation of control she had achieved while he remained unsuspecting. Everything changed after that moment. Liam didn't scream, didn't react with anger. He took a deep breath, stepping back to observe, absorbing every detail, the weight of the revelation settling over him like a dense fog. He noticed the subtle cues in the room, the faint scent of Olivia's expensive perfume lingering in the air, the gleam of the black SUV parked inconspicuously on the driveway, the soft creak of the floorboards as he paced, the light shifting across the polished hardwood, reflecting off the glass of the wine decanter she had left untouched. He catalogued each detail silently, his mind calculating, tracking, recording. Nothing escaped his attention, the luxury cues, the everyday objects, the hidden patterns of her deception. The kitchen smelled faintly of roasted coffee beans, blended with the residual aroma of her vanilla perfume, an odd contrast that only heightened his focus. Liam moved slowly, methodically, inspecting the envelope stacked neatly on the counter, the locked drawers, the notes tucked into the folds of her planner. Each discovery added layers to the emotional suspense, and yet he remained calm, grounded, patient. He glanced at the sunlight slanting across the marble island, the way it caught the edges of the envelope as if highlighting the moment itself. Something about the quiet domestic details made the betrayal sting sharper, the suspense climb higher. He jotted mental notes, account numbers, transaction dates, the precise order in which she had acted, every clue for the plan he would soon craft. Then came the cinematic clarity of the suburban afternoon, the hum of the air conditioner, the distant chirping of birds, the occasional rumble of a passing truck, the soft flicker of the pendant lights above, the sheen on the marble reflecting the room like a silent witness. Many cliffhangers punctuated his thoughts. Something felt off. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Every heartbeat counted. Every sound, every reflection, every shadow seemed to conspire in the moment. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, take a deep breath and imagine what it would feel like to realize that everything you believed about your life, your home, and your partner was unraveling right before your eyes. Liam set the note down, his fingers tracing the edge of the marble countertop, and began to silently plan, quietly gathering the information he would need to reclaim what was rightfully his, every detail embedding itself in his mind like pieces of a larger puzzle, each more suspenseful than the last. Liam Carter moved through the quiet hours of his morning like clockwork, the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant chirping of sparrows outside the window providing a steady rhythm to his thoughts. He brewed another cup of coffee, its aroma blending with the faint scent of cedarwood from the candle he had lit hours earlier, and carried the mug to the small round table by the sliding glass doors that opened onto the backyard. The sunlight cast long, golden beams across the hardwood floor, highlighting the subtle imperfections in the wood grain and glinting off the brass handle of the mail organizer where he kept incoming envelopes. Liam sat down, placing his mug carefully on a coaster, and allowed his mind to wander through the events of the previous day, replaying the note he had found and the precise wording that had set his pulse racing yet kept him calm. Something felt off. He traced his gaze across the kitchen. The marble countertop gleamed under the soft pendant lighting, a single wine glass left on the island catching a ray of sunlight and throwing a prism of color across the wall. Each detail he observed became a data point, each reflection a clue and a pattern he intended to decode. The soft ticking of the wall clock synchronized with his deep breaths as he mentally catalogued the financial movements, the subtle shifts in Olivia Bennett's schedule, the precise timing of her phone calls and meetings that had previously seemed innocuous. Liam made notes in his head, not on paper, not on a device, just mental annotations, a growing map of information he could act upon later. He observed the subtle layering of the luxury and the ordinary in his home, the way the high-end espresso machine gleamed next to a stack of school papers, the way the black leather couch showed slight wear in just the right places, a testament to years of living comfortably yet humbly. Outside, the driveway shimmered faintly with dew, the black SUV parked at the curb reflecting the early morning light like a sentinel, a silent reminder of the world beyond his controlled environment. Liam allowed himself to imagine the sequence of actions he would take, quietly, methodically, each step planned with precision, each observation a thread he could follow. The soft rustle of the wind through the trees, the faint hum of traffic in the distance, even the way the morning sun shifted through the blinds became part of the cinematic tableau he was living in, immersing him in a heightened state of awareness. Something caught his eye, a small, overlooked detail in the edge of the counter, a note partially visible under the edge of a magazine. He leaned forward, examining it carefully without disturbing anything, and a quiet thrill ran through him as he realized the extent of the hidden patterns he had begun to see. He sipped his coffee slowly, savoring the warmth, the clarity, the focus that came with stillness. Then he stood and walked to the window, hands behind his back, surveying the backyard, the street, the neighbors' homes catching the first glints of the sun on their rooftops, the soft movements of everyday life continuing oblivious to his inner calculations. Liam allowed the suspense to settle in, letting the tension build subtly, the quiet cinematic environment, the scent of coffee, the gleam of marble, the filtered sunlight, the distant city sounds, enhancing his mental rehearsal of what was to come, each sensory detail reinforcing his awareness and his patience. Something felt right. Then he noticed the slight tilt of the blinds, the subtle reflection in the wine glass, the way a shadow moved just slightly differently than it should. Many cliffhangers punctuated his thoughts, something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Each element of his environment was now both stage and tool, guiding his meticulous preparation as he moved deliberately through his kitchen, his eyes taking in every detail, every nuance, every potential clue, while the soft hum of life continued around him, unassuming, ordinary, yet intimately entwined with the suspense building inside him. Liam Carter spent the next few days in a deliberate rhythm, his mornings beginning with the same quiet rituals and his nights ending with meticulous review of every detail he had collected. He walked through his home with a calm, measured pace, scanning the subtle signs of deviation that had begun to emerge over the past months, the unopened mail stacked neatly by the front door, the slight disarray of papers on the desk that should have been organized, the faint scent of unfamiliar perfume lingering for just a few seconds as he moved through the kitchen. He brewed coffee, black, precise, and allowed the aroma to fill the air as he settled at the round kitchen table, fingers interlaced, eyes scanning the notes he had made in his mind, creating a mental map of what he knew and what he needed to confirm. Something felt wrong. Then he noticed the subtle patterns, small purchases that did not match Olivia Bennett's routine, trips scheduled that she had not mentioned, hints of conversations that might have occurred in her absence. His pulse remained steady, his breathing measured, as he catalogued each observation with clinical precision, aware that each seemingly mundane detail could be a crucial piece of the puzzle. Outside, the sunlight shifted, illuminating the marble countertop and casting reflections across the stainless steel appliances, highlighting the contrast between ordinary domesticity and the undercurrent of tension building in his mind. Liam walked to the living room and noted the arrangement of the furniture, the soft hum of the air conditioning blending with the distant sounds of traffic, the light bouncing off the polished wood floors in a way that seemed to exaggerate shadows just enough to hint at hidden angles. He observed the way the black SUV in the driveway reflected the morning sun, its presence a quiet reminder of the larger world beyond his controlled environment, a world that had begun to move without him noticing the subtle manipulations at play. Many cliffhangers punctuated his thoughts. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam began to trace her recent activities, mentally reconstructing her schedule, her likely intentions, and the sequence of actions she had taken to assert control. Each movement, each small deviation from normal, became part of a larger narrative he was quietly assembling, his mind a meticulous ledger of patterns and probabilities. He walked to the kitchen window, observing the light play across the backyard, the hum of life outside continuing as if nothing had shifted, while inside he felt the tension rise, a cinematic awareness that each sensory detail, the warmth of the sunlight, the scent of coffee, the soft creak of floorboards, the glint of a wine glass left on the counter, was part of a complex, unfolding story. Liam sipped his coffee, the warmth grounding him, and allowed his awareness to deepen, noting even the smallest anomalies, the faint reflections in mirrors, the precise alignment of objects that had been slightly altered. Each observation added layers to his understanding, reinforcing his sense of control and patient anticipation. The sound of the refrigerator humming, the soft tick of the wall clock, the distant murmur of neighbors starting their day, all became part of the immersive tableau, heightening the suspense and cinematic realism of the moment. Liam paused, letting the details coalesce into clarity, many cliffhangers weaving through his thoughts. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. He allowed himself a slow exhale, a quiet acknowledgement of the scale of what he had begun to uncover, his mind already mapping the next steps in precise, deliberate sequences, each detail a brushstroke in the larger narrative he was constructing, patient, observant, and entirely in control of his inner world. Liam Carter sat at his kitchen table long after the morning sun had climbed higher, the light shifting across the marble countertop and highlighting the faint scratches and veins that made it unique. He had organized his notes, carefully reviewing each mental observation, each inconsistency, each trace of Olivia Bennett's recent movements. Something felt off. He poured another cup of coffee, the dark liquid steaming gently, filling the air with the rich aroma that blended with the subtle cedarwood from the candle still burning beside him. The kitchen smelled ordinary, yet layered with tension, each element of the space, a stainless steel toaster, the polished brass knobs on the cabinets, the soft hum of the refrigerator, amplifying the sense of suspense. Liam began to cross-reference dates and times, mapping her recent trips, phone calls, and transactions against his own meticulous calendar. Each small discrepancy became a thread he followed, every pattern revealing itself more clearly with careful observation. Outside, the black SUV that had appeared last week remained parked just beyond the edge of his driveway, a quiet reminder that the ordinary could conceal something significant. The neighborhood was still, the distant hum of traffic and occasional bird call punctuating the morning, yet within the walls of Liam's home, each detail mattered, each sound a potential clue. Many cliffhangers punctuated his thoughts, then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. He noticed the faint glint of sunlight on the crystal vase, the slight tilt of the blinds, the shadow falling just beyond the kitchen island as if the space itself was conspiring to reveal secrets. Liam catalogued every sensory cue, the polished hardwood reflecting the morning light, the faint smell of her recently used perfume lingering in the air, the soft whir of the coffee machine winding down, as part of a larger system of observations that he could act upon later. He opened the small journal he kept by the kitchen counter, not to write, but to visualize sequences, mapping each potential move, each reaction, each contingency in his mind. His breathing remained steady, measured, deliberate, as he traced the subtleties of Olivia's planning, the unnoticed signals in her daily routine, the times she had veered from her normal patterns. He moved to the window and looked out across the street at the other houses, their rooftops catching the sunlight, the faint rustle of leaves in the early breeze, and even in the quiet suburb, Liam felt the weight of hidden currents beneath ordinary life. Every step, every glance, every reflection became part of his careful calculation, a mental blueprint of what had occurred and what could occur next. The air smelled faintly of brewed coffee, warm bread from the bakery down the street, and the lingering trace of cedarwood, creating a cinematic atmosphere that blended everyday life with the rising suspense in his mind. Many cliffhangers continued to punctuate his thoughts. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam sipped the coffee, letting the warmth ground him as he observed the light shifting across the marble, the subtle patterns of shadows and reflections in the kitchen, each detail sharpening his understanding of the unfolding situation. He paced slowly, hands behind his back, observing the room and the objects within it, the wine glass left on the counter, the keys neatly arranged on the dish by the door, the polished surfaces reflecting both the ordinary and the extraordinary. Each element added depth to the suspense, the cinematic realism of the environment, and the careful layering of clues in his mind. Liam allowed himself a slow exhale, recognizing the significance of each discovery, cataloging every pattern, every hint, every nuance, while remaining entirely composed, his attention absorbed in the meticulous orchestration of his next steps, fully aware and fully present in the moment, ready to act with precision and patience as the quiet tension continued to build around him. Liam Carter leaned back in his chair, letting the weight of the morning settle into his muscles while his mind worked through the sequence of information he had been gathering. The sunlight had shifted, spilling across the hardwood floors and casting elongated shadows from the window blinds onto the walls. Each reflection on the polished surfaces, the marble countertop, the brass handles of the cabinets, the glass of the wine decanter, added depth to his perception, sharpening his awareness of even the smallest details. He traced the timeline in his head, noting each financial transaction, each deviation in Olivia Bennett's routine, and the subtle movements of her schedule that now revealed hidden patterns. Many cliffhangers ran through his thoughts. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam's fingers drummed lightly on the edge of the table as he visualized the steps she had taken to assert control, the calculated order of events, the precision in her planning, and the confidence she must have felt in thinking everything was under her power. Outside, the black SUV sat quietly in the driveway, sunlight glinting off its polished surface, a silent marker of the ordinary world continuing while he quietly mapped the extraordinary complexity of what had occurred. He sipped his coffee, the warmth grounding him, and allowed his eyes to sweep over the room, the slight tilt of a framed photograph, the glimmer of a silver pen left on the counter, the faint fragrance of her recently used perfume lingering in the air. Each sensory detail was catalogued in his mind, a part of the larger investigation that was slowly revealing itself. Liam walked to the sliding glass door and peered into the backyard, noticing the soft ripple of leaves in the early breeze, the glint of the morning sun on the patio furniture, and the subtle movements that he had previously overlooked. He made mental notes of everything, what belonged to routine, what hinted at secrecy, and what might later serve as evidence in the careful reconstruction of the truth. The kitchen smelled faintly of roasted coffee beans and vanilla from the candle, blending the ordinary with the extraordinary in a way that heightened the cinematic tension he felt in each heartbeat. Many cliffhangers punctuated the atmosphere. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam began to trace each financial record, mentally overlaying her actions with dates and times, constructing a comprehensive map of intent and opportunity. He paced slowly, taking in the subtle sounds of life around him, the distant hum of traffic, the soft chirping of birds, the gentle rustle of leaves, and let them heighten the sense of immersion, blending the cinematic realism of his environment with the suspense of his investigation. The sunlight glimmered on the marble, catching the edges of the wine glass left on the counter, creating a subtle prism that reflected his focus and patience. Every minor detail, every shift in light or shadow, every ordinary object became part of a larger narrative that Liam meticulously observed, noting the order of items, the alignment of furniture, the faint traces of her presence. He allowed his thoughts to flow with careful deliberation, cataloging evidence without letting emotion disrupt his equilibrium, each moment reinforcing his awareness and his capacity to act. The hum of the refrigerator, the soft ticking of the wall clock, the distant sound of a neighbor's dog, all merged into a cinematic tableau, heightening the suspense as Liam prepared for the next phase of his careful, deliberate strategy, fully in control, fully observant, fully ready. Liam Carter spent the afternoon quietly reviewing his mental map of observations, tracing the sequence of Olivia Bennet's financial maneuvers, her trips, and the subtle hints of meetings she had kept secret. The sunlight poured through the kitchen windows, casting warm golden beams across the polished marble countertop and glinting off the brass faucet, highlighting every small detail in the room. The faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the lingering scent of cedarwood, creating a calm but tense atmosphere. Liam moved to the living room, noting the arrangement of furniture, the glimmer of sunlight reflecting off the glass of a wine decanter left untouched, the faint hum of the air conditioning blending with the distant sounds of traffic outside. Many cliffhangers punctuated his thoughts. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. He catalogued every anomaly he had observed, the slight shift in the placement of objects, the subtle hints in her daily routine, the timing of phone calls and trips, and began to connect the dots, seeing the larger pattern of intent emerge. Each observation added layers to his understanding, revealing a network of hidden movements that had gone unnoticed until now. Liam returned to the kitchen, tracing his hand across the marble countertop as he mentally reconstructed the financial and logistical paths Olivia had taken, noting each step with precision, the cinematic details of his surroundings amplifying the tension, the polished hardwood floors reflecting the shifting light, the black SUV parked discreetly beyond the edge of the driveway, the soft rustle of leaves in the gentle afternoon breeze. He sipped his coffee slowly, grounding himself as he allowed the sensory details to enrich his analysis, the hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the wall clock, and the subtle fragrance in the air reinforcing the cinematic realism and immersive suspense. Liam's mind worked with meticulous care, connecting the hidden patterns, financial inconsistencies, and behavioral deviations into a coherent map, each piece reinforcing his growing understanding of the situation. He observed the light glinting off the wine glass, the faint shadow it cast across the countertop, the subtle variations in the sheen of the marble under the shifting sunlight, and noted how each small detail could become a crucial point in the unfolding plan. Many cliffhangers continued to ripple through his consciousness. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam paced slowly, letting the subtle sounds and visual cues of his environment anchor his focus, noting the alignment of furniture, the subtle glint of sunlight on the brass knobs, and the soft ambient noises that had previously gone unnoticed. Every detail, from the faint aroma of coffee to the reflections of light on polished surfaces, became part of a cinematic map he carried internally, each element supporting the strategy he would gradually implement. He allowed himself to breathe deeply, to integrate the sensory input with his mental calculations, each observation reinforcing his patience, his control, and his readiness to activate the next phase of action, fully aware, fully prepared, fully immersed in the immersive and suspenseful reality of his meticulously observed home environment. Liam Carter finally reached the point in his day where observation gave way to action as he reviewed every detail he had compiled in the quiet sanctuary of his home. The afternoon light stretched across the marble countertop, reflecting in subtle prisms on the polished surface, mingling with the faint aroma of cedarwood from the candle and the rich scent of coffee that still lingered from earlier. Each item in the kitchen, the wine glass catching the sun, the brass handles of the cabinets, the subtle smudge on the countertop, became a part of the landscape he was analyzing, every ordinary object now a potential clue in a web of hidden movements. Many cliffhangers threaded through his awareness. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. He opened his laptop on the round kitchen table, fingers hovering over the keyboard as he mentally cross-referenced financial data, recent activity logs, and subtle deviations in Olivia Bennet's patterns. The soft hum of the device blended with the ambient sounds of the neighborhood, distant traffic, a dog barking briefly, leaves rustling in the breeze. Each sound anchored him in the cinematic reality of his observations. Liam visualized the network of movements, the invisible connections between transactions, trips, and communications, forming a clear map of intent and timing. He paced slowly, absorbing the sunlight streaming through the windows and catching the subtle reflections off the polished hardwood floor. Every sensory detail, the gentle creak of the floorboards, the muted shimmer of the wine glass, the shifting light on the marble, heightened the tension, each element adding weight to his growing understanding. Many cliffhangers punctuated his thoughts. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam traced the subtle gestures in Olivia's recent behavior, the unspoken patterns, the small inconsistencies, mapping them to his mental timeline of events, cataloging everything in preparation for the next phase. He walked to the window, hands behind his back, observing the driveway, the black SUV parked at a distance, the sunlight catching its surface like a silent witness, and the subtle sway of the trees as if echoing the suspense inside him. The soft hum of the refrigerator, the faint ticking of the wall clock, and the gentle sound of birds outside all merged with the sensory tableau, making the cinematic environment around him a partner in his careful, deliberate calculations. Each reflection of light, each subtle shadow, each minor imperfection became part of the pattern, reinforcing his patience and control. Liam allowed his mind to run through contingencies, imagining each potential response, each careful step he could take, noting the precise timing and order of actions, the quiet orchestration of observation into strategy. He sipped his coffee slowly, grounding himself as the sunlight continued to shift across the room, glinting off the marble and brass, reflecting the extraordinary within the ordinary. Many cliffhangers continued to ripple through his consciousness. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam remained calm, deliberate, methodical, integrating the cinematic details of his environment, the polished surfaces, the warm sunlight, the subtle ambient sounds, into a comprehensive mental plan that would guide his next moves with precision, patience, and awareness, fully prepared for the unfolding revelations to come. Liam Carter finally allowed himself a moment of stillness, sitting back in the worn leather chair by the window as sunlight streamed across the marble countertop and the polished hardwood floors, illuminating the subtle imperfections that told the story of years lived thoughtfully. The faint aroma of coffee lingered, blending with cedarwood and the soft scent of the houseplants on the windowsill, creating a sensory anchor for his focus. He reviewed the sequence of events in his mind, mentally reconstructing the timeline of Olivia Bennett's movements, her hidden financial maneuvers, and the subtle deviations from her usual routine that had hinted at her strategy. Many cliffhangers punctuated his awareness. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam traced the network of hidden connections, imagining the interactions, the private meetings, the overlooked transactions, and the calculated order of her actions. Each detail, from a faint fingerprint on a glass to the tilt of a window blind, became part of his mental map, guiding him toward understanding the full scope of the situation. Outside, the black SUV gleamed in the driveway under the mid-afternoon sun, its presence unremarkable to anyone passing by, yet a silent marker in Liam's mind of the ordinary world continuing around him. He sipped his coffee slowly, letting the warmth and aroma center him as he moved through the kitchen, observing the glint of sunlight on the brass handles, the reflection on the marble, the slight sway of the curtain in the breeze, each mundane element now layered with significance. Many cliffhangers surfaced again. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam opened his laptop and began connecting the dots, cross-referencing dates, times, and patterns of behavior, forming a precise mental map of her network of influence and decisions. He allowed the cinematic environment to guide him, the hum of the refrigerator, the faint ticking of the wall clock, the soft rustle of leaves outside, the warm glow of sunlight hitting the countertops, all reinforcing the immersive suspense of his investigation. Each reflection and shadow became part of a strategy he was quietly formulating, integrating the ordinary domestic details with the hidden movements he now observed. He paused, letting the sensory and informational layers coalesce into clarity, noting the arrangement of the furniture, the gleam on the wine glass, the polished surfaces, each item a potential clue or marker in his mental map. Many cliffhangers threaded through every observation. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam traced the next steps in his mind, imagining contingencies, responses, and the careful activation of resources that had remained hidden until now. He paced slowly, absorbing the cinematic tableau around him, letting the sunlight, the ambient sounds, the reflections, and the subtle textures of the room reinforce his awareness and focus. Each sensory detail, each observed nuance, each quiet shift in the environment was catalogued, reinforcing his patience, control, and readiness to proceed with precision. He allowed his mind to expand over every detail, the polished marble, the warm sunlight, the subtle ambient sounds, the faint aroma lingering in the air, each element integrated into a comprehensive plan, every observation sharpening his understanding and his ability to act at the precise moment necessary, fully prepared, fully aware, and fully in control of the unfolding situation. Liam Carter stood by the large window of his kitchen, the late afternoon sun casting warm, elongated patterns across the polished hardwood floors and bouncing softly off the marble countertops. The faint scent of coffee and cedarwood lingered in the air, grounding him in the familiar comfort of his carefully curated environment. He traced the timeline in his mind one final time, connecting the patterns he had observed over the past days, Olivia Bennet's subtle deviations, the hidden financial maneuvers, the small but telling signs of her overconfidence. Many cliffhangers threaded through his thoughts. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam had carefully reviewed every document, every receipt, every transaction, storing the details mentally, the way a master strategist builds a map of unseen forces before making a decisive move. The black SUV outside reflected the golden light of the setting sun, an ordinary object now charged with meaning in the context of his observations. He moved slowly through the kitchen, hands brushing lightly over the marble countertop, eyes noting the subtle reflections of light, the slight tilt of a wine glass, the arrangement of everyday objects now part of a larger tableau of cinematic suspense. The air smelled faintly of coffee, the clean scent of the marble, and the residual cedarwood, forming a multisensory backdrop for the mental rehearsal that had consumed him. Many cliffhangers surfaced again. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam visualized the precise sequence of actions he would take, each step mapped out meticulously, integrating the environmental cues, the polished hardwood, the gleam of the brass handles, the filtered sunlight bouncing off reflective surfaces, into a coherent plan. He allowed himself a moment to appreciate the clarity that came with patience, the calm after the storm of emotions had passed, the quiet power in understanding every layer of the situation without revealing any of his own. He sipped coffee slowly, letting the warmth reinforce his focus, noting every minor detail, the soft hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the wall clock, the faint rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze outside. Each ordinary sound, each subtle visual element became a data point in the web of knowledge he had constructed, a foundation for the impending shift in his life. Many cliffhangers continued. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam paused, letting the golden light settle across the room, illuminating both the ordinary and the extraordinary, the subtle interplay of luxury and familiarity, the marble, the brass, the wine glass, the black SUV, and allowed the cinematic tableau to merge seamlessly with his mental calculations. Every observation reinforced his patience, his composure, and his readiness, each minute detail a building block for the careful activation of his plan. He reviewed one last mental checklist, noting timing, sequence, and contingencies, visualizing the unfolding events with precision. The room, the ambient sounds, the shifting light, the familiar scents, all combined into a heightened awareness, each sensory element aligning with his internal strategy, preparing him to move forward fully in control, fully aware, and fully ready for the next phase of transformation. Liam Carter observed the subtle shift in the afternoon light as it fell across the marble countertop and polished hardwood floors, the golden glow highlighting the edges of the wine glass left on the island and reflecting off the brass handles of the cabinets. The faint scent of coffee lingered, blending with cedarwood and the residual perfume Olivia Bennet had left behind, creating a complex, immersive sensory backdrop. Many cliffhangers threaded through his thoughts. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. He walked slowly to the sliding glass doors, hands behind his back, surveying the driveway where the black SUV sat gleaming under the fading sunlight, ordinary to any observer but a silent marker in his mind of the larger narrative he was unraveling. Liam reviewed every mental note, cataloging patterns of financial movements, deviations in daily routines, and subtle inconsistencies in behavior, connecting them into a comprehensive network of understanding. The hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the wall clock, and the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze outside merged with the cinematic tableau, each sound reinforcing the tension and awareness in the room. Many cliffhangers punctuated the moment again. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam focused on the layers of hidden activity he had uncovered, imagining each potential reaction, each domino effect, each sequence of events as he prepared the careful activation of his plan. The polished surfaces of the kitchen, the marble, the brass, the glint of the wine glass, reflected the ordinary and extraordinary simultaneously, grounding his focus in the tangible while his mind worked through the abstract. He traced his observations of Olivia's private communications, her hidden meetings, and subtle financial maneuvers, overlaying them with dates and times, forming a precise blueprint of her overconfidence and assumptions. Each detail, from a slightly shifted chair to the glimmer of sunlight on the hardwood, became part of the cinematic mental map he held, reinforcing patience and control. Many cliffhangers continued to echo in his thoughts. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam allowed himself to feel the gravity of his discoveries without letting emotion dominate, integrating each sensory cue, the warm sunlight, the faint scent of coffee, the quiet hum of the environment, the reflective surfaces, into a coherent strategy. He moved back to the kitchen table, tracing the edge with his fingertips, visualizing contingencies, timing, and responses, each step deliberate, measured, and precise. The environment, the polished marble, the filtered light, the subtle ambient sounds, merged with his mental calculations, heightening the suspense and preparing him for the moments ahead. Many cliffhangers punctuated his focused observation. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam sat in quiet anticipation, fully aware, fully prepared, integrating all elements, the sensory, the cinematic, the analytical, into a seamless plan, ready to move forward with control, patience, and precision as the evening shadows lengthened across his home. Liam Carter finally felt the full weight of his preparation coalesce as the late afternoon sun slanted across the marble countertop and the polished hardwood floors, creating a cinematic glow that reflected off the wine glass and brass handles. The faint scent of cedarwood mingled with the lingering aroma of coffee, grounding him in the familiar environment while his mind traced every hidden movement Olivia Bennet had made over the past months. Many cliffhangers threaded through his thoughts. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam opened the secure files on his laptop, reviewing transaction records, correspondence, and subtle evidence of missteps, each detail illuminating the structure of her overconfidence. Outside, the black SUV gleamed quietly in the driveway, the ordinary presence now layered with significance in his cinematic mental map. He traced the connections between her private meetings, hidden accounts, and daily deviations, cataloging each as part of a growing revelation. The subtle hum of the refrigerator, the soft ticking of the wall clock, and the rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze outside created an ambient soundscape that anchored him in the unfolding suspense. Each reflection of sunlight on the marble, each shadow stretching across the floors, each glint from the wine glass became a visual cue in his mental blueprint of the network of hidden actions. Many cliffhangers continued to punctuate his thoughts. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam traced the web of hidden assets and communications with meticulous care, overlaying patterns and timelines to reveal the vulnerabilities in Olivia's plan. He walked slowly through the kitchen, observing every detail, the alignment of furniture, the sheen of polished surfaces, the faint residual perfume, integrating each into a precise mental map of opportunity and advantage. The cinematic environment reinforced the suspense, sunlight bouncing off the marble, the warm glow of the pendant lights, the subtle sound of the coffee machine winding down, and the reflective surfaces of everyday objects all merged with his analytical focus. Each sensory cue strengthened his awareness, creating a layered understanding that blended ordinary domesticity with the extraordinary implications of his observations. Many cliffhangers threaded through the tableau. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam visualized the precise moment to activate the sequence of revelations, understanding the timing, the impact, and the subtle orchestration required to turn the hidden knowledge into clear advantage. He allowed the sensory environment to guide his mental rehearsal, each reflection, each faint sound, each shift in light becoming part of a strategic framework. The sunlight, the polished marble, the ambient noises, the faint aroma lingering in the air, all integrated seamlessly with the evidence he had collected, reinforcing his composure, patience, and readiness. Many cliffhangers continued to punctuate his attention. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam took a final slow sip of coffee, letting the warmth anchor him as he reviewed one last time the connections, patterns, and sequences he had uncovered, fully aware, fully prepared, and fully in control of the moment where hidden truths would emerge and the narrative of power, observation, and patience would shift decisively in his favor. Liam Carter felt a quiet shift in the air as the late afternoon sun dipped lower, casting elongated shadows across the polished hardwood floors and the marble countertops, the glint of sunlight catching the edge of the wine glass like a signal. The faint scent of coffee mingled with cedarwood, grounding him in the familiar environment while his mind traced the culmination of every observation, every hidden movement, and every carefully noted deviation Olivia Bennet had made over the past weeks. Many cliffhangers threaded through his thoughts. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam carefully reviewed the compiled evidence in his mental map, overlaying the hidden financial maneuvers, the subtle deviations from routine, and the misjudged confidence she had exhibited, seeing with clarity the pattern of overconfidence that had been invisible until now. The black SUV in the driveway reflected the fading sunlight, a quiet sentinel that emphasized the ordinary world continuing beyond the layers of calculated observation in Liam's home. He moved deliberately through the kitchen, noting the reflective surfaces of the marble, the slight tilt of a picture frame, the soft shimmer of light on brass handles, each element woven into the cinematic tapestry of suspense and awareness he had cultivated. Many cliffhangers punctuated the moment. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam traced the sequences, imagining each interaction, each hidden transaction, each overlooked signal in her schedule, connecting them into a coherent map of cause and effect that revealed the full scope of hidden activity. The soft hum of the refrigerator, the faint ticking of the wall clock, and the rustle of leaves outside merged seamlessly with the cinematic environment, heightening the tension and reinforcing his patient, deliberate observation. He allowed himself to absorb the sensory details, the warmth of the sunlight on the marble, the faint aroma lingering in the air, the glint of the wine glass, the polished hardwood reflecting subtle shifts in light, each observation reinforcing his readiness and composure. Many cliffhangers continued to echo. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam sipped his coffee slowly, the warmth a steadying anchor, as he visualized the sequence of revelations he would trigger, understanding the timing, impact, and orchestration required to unfold the hidden truths. Every reflection, shadow, and sound, the filtered sunlight, the polished surfaces, the ambient hum, the faint scent in the air, merged with his analytical focus, creating a cinematic tableau that was at once ordinary and extraordinary, reinforcing his control and patience. He walked to the window, observing the driveway, the street, the surrounding homes as they caught the last rays of sunlight, integrating the sensory environment with his mental calculations. Many cliffhangers punctuated his final thoughts. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam exhaled slowly, letting the clarity of observation, the cinematic environment, and the accumulated understanding coalesce into full awareness, fully prepared, fully composed, and ready for the quiet but decisive power reversal that would soon unfold. Liam Carter watched the early evening light filter through the tall windows, the golden rays glinting off the marble countertops and polished hardwood floors, casting long, dramatic shadows across the kitchen. The faint aroma of coffee lingered in the air, now mingling with the subtle cedarwood scent from the candle still burning softly in the corner. Many cliffhangers threaded through his thoughts. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam took a slow breath and allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction, knowing that every detail, every observation, and every calculated step he had taken over the past days had aligned perfectly. He walked through the house, noting the reflections in the wine glass, the subtle shifts in light across the brass handles, the polished hardwood floors catching the warm glow, each element part of the cinematic environment that had guided his careful preparation. Outside, the black SUV in the driveway reflected the fading sunlight, a quiet witness to the culmination of patience, strategy, and understanding. Liam visualized the sequence of events, imagining the subtle recognition on Olivia Bennett's face, the moment she would realize the full extent of her overconfidence and the depth of his silent, measured preparation. The soft hum of the refrigerator, the faint ticking of the wall clock, and the distant rustle of leaves in the evening breeze reinforced the immersive suspense of the scene. Many cliffhangers punctuated the atmosphere. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam returned to the kitchen table, fingers lightly tracing the edge of the marble, reviewing the mental map of the past weeks, every financial maneuver, every deviation in routine, every subtle clue that had allowed him to reconstruct the hidden narrative. The sunlight shifted, illuminating each detail with cinematic clarity, the slight tilt of a picture frame, the gleam of a brass knob, the reflective surfaces of the countertop, the soft shimmer of the wine glass, all now markers of a carefully orchestrated transformation. He allowed the room, the ambient sounds, the filtered sunlight, the lingering scents, and the reflective surfaces to merge seamlessly with his mental strategy, reinforcing patience, awareness, and control. Many cliffhangers threaded through his thoughts. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam sipped coffee slowly, letting the warmth anchor him, observing the subtle movements of light and shadow, the cinematic quality of the environment that had become a partner in his preparation, each reflection and detail reinforcing the precision of his next moves. The polished marble, the gleam of the wine glass, the warmth of sunlight across the hardwood, the soft ambient sounds, and the faint cedarwood scent combined into an immersive tableau, a perfect blend of ordinary and extraordinary that underscored the transformation of awareness, strategy, and readiness. Many cliffhangers continued to punctuate the scene. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it. He had no idea what was coming. Everything changed after that moment. Liam allowed a quiet smile to form, acknowledging the culmination of patience and careful planning, integrating the cinematic details of his home, the ordinary and the extraordinary, into a final tableau of calm control, focused awareness, and readiness for the future, fully prepared to step forward into the next chapter of his life with